Imagine waking up tomorrow, and 9 out of every 10 people you know are gone. Not in a war, not over decades, in a single lifetime. Your parents, your children, your friends, your entire village, vanished. The markets fall silent. The fields grow wild. The temples crumble. An entire civilization. This isn't science fiction. This isn't a thought experiment. This actually happened, and almost nobody talks about it. Before we can understand what was lost, we must first understand what existed. The year is 1491. Christopher Columbus hasn't yet set sail. The Aztec Empire is at its height. The Inca are building Machu Picchu. And across 2 continents, from the Arctic to Tierra del Fuego, an estimated 60 to 100 million people call the Americas home. Let me take you to Tenochtitlan, the capital of the Aztec Empire. With a population of over 200,000 people, it was larger than any European city of its time. Larger than London, larger than Paris. Its floating gardens fed millions. Its aqueducts delivered fresh mountain water. Its pyramids rivaled those of Egypt. When Spanish conquistador Bernal Diaz del Castillo first saw it in 1519, he wrote that it was like something out of an enchanted fairy tale. Or travel north to Cahokia, near present-day St. Louis. At its peak, around 1250 AD, it housed 20,000 people, larger than London at the same time. Its massive earthen mounds still stand today, silent witnesses to a sophisticated civilization that had already mysteriously declined by the time Europeans arrived. The Americas weren't empty wilderness waiting to be discovered. They were home to thousands of distinct nations and cultures. The Inca Empire stretched 2,500 miles along the Andes, connected by 25,000 miles of roads. The Maya had developed written language, advanced mathematics, and astronomical calendars more accurate than those used in Europe. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy practiced a sophisticated form of democracy that would later influence the U.S. Constitution. These civilizations had transformed their environment. They had domesticated crops, corn, potatoes, tomatoes, cacao, that would eventually feed the world. They had built cities, temples, and monuments. They had art, literature, religion, philosophy, science. They had families. They had stories. They had dreams. They were fully human, living full lives, in a world as rich and complex as any on Earth. And they were about to face something they had never encountered before, something their immune systems had never seen, something that would make the Black Death look merciful by. When Christopher Columbus's 3 ships landed in the Bahamas on October 12, 1492, they didn't just bring men, horses, and weapons. They brought something far more devastating: smallpox, measles, typhus, influenza, bubonic plague, diphtheria, scarlet fever. Here's the crucial difference that would determine the fate of millions. For thousands of years, Europeans had lived in close proximity to domesticated animals: cows, pigs, horses, chickens. These animals were disease factories. Over centuries, Europeans had been exposed to countless zoonotic diseases that hit from animals to humans. Most Europeans died, but those who survived developed immunity. Their children inherited some resistance. Generation after generation, natural selection favored those who could withstand these diseases. The indigenous peoples of the Americas had far fewer domesticated animals: llamas and alpacas in South America, dogs, turkeys. That's essentially it. They had never been exposed to the diseases that came from close contact with livestock. This meant their immune systems had no memory, no defense, no blueprint for fighting these European diseases. When a European caught smallpox, their body recognized the threat and mounted a defense. Many still died, but many survived. When a Native American caught smallpox for the first time, their immune system had never seen anything like it. The mortality rate wasn't 30% like it was in Europe. It was 80%, sometimes 90%, sometimes entire villages gone. The first wave began almost immediately. 1493, Columbus's second voyage brings European diseases to Hispaniola. Within 3 years, a third of the native population is dead. But here's what makes this truly apocalyptic: the diseases spread faster than the Europeans themselves. You didn't need direct contact with a conquistador to catch smallpox. You just needed contact with someone who had been near someone who had been near a Spaniard. The Americas had extensive trade networks, merchants traveling hundreds of miles, ambassadors visiting distant cities, pilgrims going to sacred sites. These trade routes became highways of death. A trader returns from the coast, feeling unwell. Within a week, he's covered in pustules, burning with fever. Within 2 weeks, half his village is infected. Within a month, the village is silent. But before they died, some villagers fled to neighboring settlements, carrying the infection with them. The disease would often reach communities years, even decades, before they ever saw a European. By 1520, smallpox had reached the Aztec Empire. Emperor Cuitlahuac, who had just defeated the Spanish, died of smallpox within 80 days of taking power. His successor, Cuauhtémoc, would later describe the horror. The illness was so dreadful that no one could walk or move. The sick were so utterly helpless that they could only lie on their beds like corpses. A great many died from this plague, and many others died of hunger. They could not get up to search for food, and everyone else was too sick to care for them. When Cortés returned in 1521, he was facing an entirely different empire. Not the vibrant, powerful civilization that had nearly destroyed him a year earlier, but a broken population, devastated by invisible enemies their priests couldn't explain and their medicine couldn't cure. The Aztec Empire didn't fall to Spanish military superiority. It fell to microbes. And let's talk about numbers, because numbers help us understand scale. And the scale of what happened is almost incomprehensible.